Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and welcome to another Wine Time with Taylor. So today's topic is a little bit more niche. I recently finished High School Musical, the series on Disney Plus, and I loved it. I don't know what it was. It really just kind of captured my heart in a way that, you know, a children's show, a show designed for, you know, teenagers and stuff normally wouldn't do for a 26-year-old woman. But I just want to talk about it today. Our wine today is Rosy Ass Rhubarb from Prairie Berry Winery. This is a very popular winery that's based out of Hill City, South Dakota, and it's about 20 minutes away from where I am in Rapid. It's a very popular tourist destination. Their most popular is called Red Ass Rhubarb, but then this is a take on that. It's a rose wine. It's not a rosé, because rosé has that like blush. It's very pinky. This is a very dark pink. Like it's more magenta, I would say. Rosy Ass Rhubarb is a lively rhubarb wine made from tart rhubarb and sweet strawberries. Serve chilled. So I don't think I've tried this one yet, but I really like Red Ass Rhubarb. It's actually also my mother's favorite wine, which is pretty cool. Okay, it definitely has a bit of a drier quality than the Red Ass Rhubarb. Red Ass Rhubarb is a very sweet red, very much like a red Moscato. This has a lot more bite to it, and it has a very full-bodied smell. It clearly doesn't have a whole lot of sugar in it, because when I swirl the glass around, it doesn't have those legs on there. Yeah, this almost gives off a more sophisticated taste. We are going to get into it. I have all my notes on my laptop here, and so if you see me looking over here, that's why. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I really think that this could be a fun sort of thing to do, just wine time with Taylor, and we sit and we talk and I try out a different wine every time. So if me talking about a show on Disney Plus is not for you, that is a-okay. I will see you next time for the crochet content or reading content, what have you. But don't forget to like the video, and I would love to have a discussion in the comments. Always keep it fun, funky, fresh, and nice. Let's hop in. So, I titled this, I binged High School Musical, the series, and here's what I think about it. A lot of this is going to be character analysis, and I'm going to be specifically talking about the high schoolers. I'm not really going to be talking about the teacher, whom I know is a very important like focal point. She's kind of the catalyst for everything starting, but I think that it's, you know, truly about these students. And I'm also not going to talk super in depth about certain plot points other than how they kind of serve the character development of these characters. So I need to stop rambling. Let's hop in. So first and foremost, I think Ricky Bowen is a loser. Let that sit in. I really do think he's kind of like the main villain of this entire show. And it goes on for 4 seasons. So this whole series revolves around Ricky. And I know that clearly Olivia Rodrigo's character is supposed to be the main character, at least in season 1. But Ricky is the catalyst for everything. His parents' divorce, his relationships, his everything changing, and he has no ambition or aspirations. At the end of season 4, I should also say, it's going to contain a lot of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the series, go watch it. It's very good. But at the end of season 4, he gets into college with the caveat that he gets straight A's his entire spring semester, stating that he currently has a 1.8 GPA. For someone who so clearly does not do well in classes, 1, why is he allowed to do the musical? I know I had to do grade checks in high school when I was in the musical and many other activities. And 2, for having so many adults care about him, they really let his academics suffer. I understand that this is just a plot line, but seriously, like, what the fuck? It's like everyone says they care for him, and he has serious relationships with two of the smartest girls in school, but yet no one knew that he wasn't a very good student. I think this could have been an interesting plotline, talking about how young boys struggling and feeling so alone and like feeling that no one can help them. But no, they didn't do that, and I think that's a missed opportunity, talking about, you know, how toxic masculinity prevents young boys from reaching out when they really should. I also don't understand why all the girls in the show are foaming at the mouth for Ricky. Nene and Ricky, as a couple, they make sense because they were childhood friends, but she grows so much over just 1 year and tries to make it as a singer, something that she's always wanted. And obviously I know that Olivia Rodrigo left the show after her success of the Sour album so that she could like go on tour. But that's kind of not the point that I'm trying to make here. And he would have rather her stayed home and just be with him. It's very selfish of him to do, but I also don't think Nene did the right thing waiting till the end, like the very last moment, to tell him that she was leaving for this big school. They are also children and they make mistakes trying to date, so I really don't hold a whole lot against either of them. Although I do think it's very hard to make someone your sole source of happiness, as Ricky tries to do in season 2 once Nene is back at East High. Everything is about her, which I know is him projecting, but that's what ends up driving a wedge between them because she feels like there's so much pressure on her to make him happy. Then Ricky and Gina started a thing, but once Gina stopped being a stone cold bitch, I really thought she did a good job as a leading lady. Personally, it seems that this show was built around Olivia Rodrigo and Joshua Bassett's characters, and then they realized that they had this dynamic cast of people who could sing and dance and really carry on a show without centering Olivia Rodrigo and Joshua Bassett's characters. Once all of the secondary characters from season 1 really became a cast with their own plot lines and stories, I think that's when the show got really, really good. But back to Ricky and Gina. This was stupid. Like, point blank, period, I think that their relationship is kind of stupid. I think Gina is way too good for him, and he chose Nene over Gina once, and it seems weird to me that she's cool with it only once Nene is gone. And then Ricky is like never sad about Nene being gone. He just shifts his attention to Nina because this guy is obviously unable to be alone. I also think that him dropping Gina so quickly after Nene decides to take him back is such a slap in the face, and I don't blame her for being upset with him and treating him coldly after he sent very mixed signals to her. And then for him to dart straight to her even when she was with EJ, I just thought was in poor taste. Ricky never once asked himself why these things aren't working out, and he just pouts about them all the time. I think Gina is such a dynamic character and really stands on her own. And for her to kind of like, I don't want to say like lower herself to be with Ricky, but kind of. Like, Ricky is kind of the embodiment of that random senior guy who just shows up to musical auditions his senior year and gets the male lead because your theater department chose another musical with a male lead knowing full well they didn't have somebody. But in this show, they did have somebody who could have played the male lead, and I think EJ kind of got screwed over. On EJ, I don't understand why he acts like a brother figure to Ricky. Ricky did nothing but try to steal EJ's girlfriends every single time, and at the end of season 3, when they're at camp, EJ was just like, "You're my brother, dude." Like, he's not. Ricky is a selfish asshole who likes to throw pity parties for himself all the time and then expects these girlfriends to solve his problems. And then he's also failing everything, and he somehow keeps getting these leading roles, and he doesn't have a strong voice. He's clearly not a good dancer, and he's not a good actor. There is no reason why he should have been beating out EJ, at least for Troy Bolton in season 1. Or the Beast. I know that EJ very much was a good Gaston, but I think he would have made a good Beast as well in Beauty and the Beast in season 2. Okay, but enough about how much I dislike Ricky. I should also preface here, I know these are just characters on a show, and I do not judge the actors for the actions of these characters. Joshua Bassett actually just dropped a new song a little while ago called The Golden Years. I really, really like it, so go stream that on Spotify. I wrote here, listen to it and think about being a child in like August at your county fair. Be nostalgic. I was someone who was like very involved in my county fair. My home county is like the biggest county fair in Minnesota. Next character we're going to dive into is Nini, who is supposed to be the main character, but her entire life is about boys until she decides she wants to pursue other things. I think it's really hard to see another TV show do the cut and dry, all about boys in high school thing. The character of Nini is your very self-insert blank page of a character. The stereotype of finding your voice, which she does very quickly, and then suddenly decides that she should be an actress and deserves to go to school for it. I'm sorry, but if you're a talent scout for a very prestigious school and you saw that original High School Musical performance, you wouldn't want her. She did not perform to the best of her abilities, and I think that she really didn't need to work very hard to get the things that were kind of handed to her. She's a fine singer, but she needed to hone her talent more before deciding that's just what she wanted to do forever. I just felt like she hadn't thought things through very much, especially considering how fast she folded because things were too hard at the private school, because it was showing her discipline, and clearly she didn't look into the curriculum at the school well enough. Unfortunately, a very forgettable character, but I do really like Olivia Rodrigo and I like her music, so it's not a judgment on her. This is a character that was written for her to play, not her. So I don't have a whole lot to say about Nini. I liked how she eventually kind of grew past the boys thing, but I almost feel like they had to do that. The writers had to do that for her character so that they could seamlessly kind of write her out of the show, which is also fine, whatever. Moving on. Next we have the other half of the love triangle, EJ. EJ kind of comes out of nowhere to what seems to be everybody. He comes off as a bit of a jock in the first episode and a little bit of a jerk, but it turns out he's just the only straight guy in the theater program, and I'm sure we all know how that goes normally. He really likes Nini and is rightly curious about their past relationship and why Ricky wants to get back together with her so badly. I do think it's hard that Ashlyn's character all of season 1 is about trying to make EJ a better person. I don't love women having to make men better again. But throughout the season, and then especially 2, 3, and 4, he is an amazing character. I think once they kind of dropped him being more of a villain, because it's really hard. They introduce him and he's super nice, but then you find out that he's just terrible and mean, but he has a nice face, and then they kind of switch it completely. I think that the way in which they switched his character was very, very good in the directions that they decided to go with him. I think it's great how he realizes he can't just make people do what he wants, and it's probably a symptom of wanting control from having an overbearing father who planned out his whole life for him. Him deciding where he wanted to go to college and what he wanted to do with his life, and then getting cut off from his family financially, and it sounded like he didn't really talk to his dad at all, is a very realistic plotline, and I thought was executed very well. One thing I will say though, he does end up having to be an emotional support for Ricky in season 4, and he says he misses high school every day and all this other bullshit. But I think that's a sad message to send to people. I'm so sick of the high school is the best years of your life bullshit. EJ supremacy. And I think he deserved to punch Ricky in the face at least one time. Also in season 3, when EJ was with Gina and he was telling all these things about his personal life to the other woman counselor, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, I don't think that was really fair. In season 4, it's alluded to the fact that these two might have something romantic when Ricky visits him at college, which is fine because I do think that EJ deserves someone that Ricky isn't meddling around with. I also like how EJ takes responsibility for the things he's done, saying he's sorry directly to Gina and taking accountability and saying that he would do things differently, but he accepts that that's his past and all he can do is really move forward. He becomes a good friend and a mentor to the younger kids, and I think that that's super cool. Also, no reason that he would be in the rock climbing club instead of his college theater program with his talent, but whatever. Also, as a freshman, it's very unlikely that you'd be an RA. Especially because I think that's first semester too. But anyway, in terms of plotline, I think that the first season was the most melodramatic. Kind of like Degrassi, but watered down, of course, because it's Disney. I didn't mind that though, especially seasons 2 and 3 I think is where they found their groove. The cast really melds together nicely and you see how these kids shine. The original songs are pretty good, but their covers are also amazing. I will say Ricky and Gina singing, oh god, that one duet that Trey and Gabriella sing in High School Musical 3. The one where they're on like the rooftop garden. It's so cute. They do sing together very well. I liked the rivalry in season 2 with North and East High, but I didn't really love how it's just dropped the minute that they decided they didn't want to go with that plotline anymore. Like them just deciding to put it in the pizza incinerator, I just kind of felt like was a cop-out, because if they had made them win, then they would have had to like do a whole nother season of it. And then we couldn't have had the camp plotline in season 3. I am still curious about what's in the envelope, but honestly, it does, but it doesn't matter. Moving on to some other character developments. Ashlyn, my bi queen. I really enjoyed watching her come into herself, becoming Belle in season 2. But I do think her being put in the chorus in season 3 when they did Frozen, and watching her struggle with that was even better. A very real representation of how different shows will cast you and how you just have to roll with it if you really love your craft. I also love how she's not so meek and mild as she was in season 1. As I mentioned before, she really was just an emotional support for EJ, and they made her this very like shy, just kind of a shell of a character in my opinion. I just wish there had been more scenes of EJ and Ashlyn together while EJ was struggling with his dad stuff and Ashlyn struggling with being put in the chorus in season 3. I think that could have been a good family moment, but I also understand that like even though they are cousins, they live different lives. I just think that especially season 1 they played up this like, oh, cousin. They like hung around a lot and then they kind of took that out seasons 2 through 4. I also loved her relationship with Big Red. I think it's super cute that they both ended up being bi characters because like draws to like. And even if they didn't know it in each other at the time, I think having them grow apart and realizing things about themselves was a really good thing. I like that it wasn't this long, drawn-out thing. I'm sure that it did feel drawn out as an audience member when I like wanted her to get with Gadget, but also like it was really realistic in my opinion. They both made mistakes, but they're able to be still friends with each other once they break up, which is a very queer thing to do. Like, I'm sure a lot of people looked at that and they're like, how can you do that? And it's like, that's very queer cultured right there, and I think that that's really cool and funny. I also loved in season 3 Ashlyn discovering that she was bi. It was very subtle. It was a big part of her character development that season, but I don't think it really overcame everything. Like, I don't think it wasn't everything. Her realizing that she might have a crush, dismissing it, and then finally admitting it to herself, it wasn't over the top and didn't take over the whole season. I also really do like her and Gadget. They were a very cute couple, and it came off just as genuine as any of the heteronormative couples. I like that they had miscommunications, but it wasn't overly toxic as some shows tried to show queer relationships. And even with Gadget, Jojo Siwa jump scaring me, honestly, in season 3. Oh my goodness. I think that them talking about having relationship issues, will they, won't they, without it being overly toxic, I think was a really good representation of queer relationships. And even the heteronormative relationships in this show I wouldn't say are very toxic, which also, nice. People make mistakes, but it's not. I think that this is a good representation of relationship mistakes when you're young, that, they hurt at the time, they mean something, but it's not irredeemable. You know what I mean? Moving on to Gina. I loved Gina when she became more of a focal point. I love a strong girl who puts up an icy front. If you've read A Court of Silver Flames, if you have, by Sarah J. Maas, if you have read Reckless by Elsie Silver, especially when we get to see those walls break down and realize that Gina is just a softie. I think she's an amazing triple threat, and I do want to see the actress Sophia Wiley in more things in the future. I think waiting on her character to have a final big moment in season 4 with her becoming Gabriella for High School Musical 3, and then her, you know, kind of becoming a professional actress as well. It was natural. I feel like the progression was natural and a perfect wish fulfillment that we could all want and kind of root for. Obviously, I didn't like her much in season 1 as she was supposed to be a villain character, but I don't entirely like the reasons her walls were broken down was because of Ricky. But I do think that the writers did a good job rebounding this by having her live with Ashlyn and becoming really good friends with Courtney and like having them be like a little girl gang. I liked that a lot. Once the writers gave up Gina's bitchy mode, she suddenly became this dynamic character, and I loved the way she attacked everything in her life with ambition and passion. She really came off as a fully fleshed person who has to overcome adversity and hardship and still chooses happiness, and I don't think we see enough of that. Courtney is also a very strong female character that I couldn't get enough of. I'm not sure why she didn't play a more central role in season 1. It very much came off as she was just a helping character for Nene, very much just kind of the voice of reason. Her singing literally blows everyone out of the water, and I loved how they showcased her relationship between her and her mother, with her mom always being supportive and guiding for Courtney. I personally think that Ashlyn and Gina were way better friends to her than Nene ever was, and Nene was only ever focused on boys and herself. I also think that showing Courtney's struggle with finding her path for college is so real. It is such a big decision, and it really can feel debilitating to have to choose a school. For her to get into 2 very prestigious schools, but choose the one that felt like home over her mother's alma mater, but her mom didn't care where she went. Honestly, Courtney's mom is a queen, is amazing, and a lot of people would not be able to do that. I also liked how it subtly alluded to racist structures that exist in Ivy League schools without really saying it, because I thought it was kind of a good subtle dig. Courtney's journey with anxiety is also played nicely, in my opinion. Her being Elsa and feeling the weight of the world is on her is something I think anyone can relate to, whether you're in theater or not. Again, not over the top, it doesn't take over, and her mother puts her in therapy to help with this. Again, queen behavior. Moving on to the last kind of character in the big, I think like 6, is Carlos. I really don't have much to say about Carlos. I really liked the way the show handled him having his first relationship with Seb. I don't like how they had to throw the cheating trope in there and then like make it not matter. That felt kind of cheap, especially after the care and love that they kind of gave to the female queer characters. I liked Carlos's character and his relationship with Miss Jen, with him becoming a PA of sorts. It really reminded me of the way that like I was with my teachers in high school, like my theater teacher specifically. I could go on and talk about Miss Jen, but she's lovable and neurotic, and I really don't have much else to say other than she was a good teacher but should have had a teaching degree. So, also I do think that she should have gone on Broadway and done Glinda. I think that would have been really cool and what like a good success story to be able to come back and tell your students. But I also understand her not wanting to. I don't know. Clearly, the school has enough funding to pay a theater teacher, so I'm not sure why they wouldn't be able to find another one. But of course, everyone just wants to feel so important. Like, if not me, who? And that's a fair thing to think, you know? Overall, I think this show does an amazing job exploring high school, first love, hard choices, and growing up. I can't remember the last time I watched a show that handled so many different topics for teenagers and seemed to give it like such love and care. I watched a lot of Degrassi when I was younger, and if you watched Degrassi, it's very dramatic, it's very heavy, there is a lot of drinking and drugs and sex and, you know, things that do happen in high school, but I don't know. I also watched a lot of Disney Channel. Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was like my main one. Also Wizards of Waverly Place, that was a good one. in Nickelodeon, where I mostly watched iCarly and Victorious, but nothing really gave what this show seemed to give. The care and love given to topics like anxiety, changing family dynamics, falling in love and breaking up for the first time, feeling like high school is the entire world, and exploring your sexuality. It just gave so much for a show that is exclusively on Disney+. This is gonna sound kind of cheesy, but this show really healed something inside of me, and I did in fact cry when I finished watching it. So that is all I have on that. Let me know your thoughts below on anything I've said about the show. I'd love to have a discussion in the comments. Remember, please keep things nice. I am just one person. These are just my opinions, and I would love to know yours on different characters. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe. Love you guys. Bye.